The detention facility smelled of rust and despair. Marcus Webb knelt on the cold floor, his work jumpsuit still stained with grease from the ventilation system he had been repairing just hours before. His tool belt hung awkwardly at his waist, forgotten by the guards who had dragged him here. They probably thought a civilian engineer posed no threat. They were about to learn otherwise. Before him, two young women sat bound in restraints that looked far too heavy for their slender frames. The older one had luminous violet eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them, her silver hair falling across her face in tangled waves. Despite the chains, she sat with a straight back, defiant even in captivity. The younger sister possessed the same ethereal beauty, but her amber eyes were wide with terror, her whole body trembling like a leaf in a storm. Seraphine, the older one, had whispered earlier, introducing herself with a voice like wind chimes. "And this is my sister, Celeste." Now, Marcus faced them under the harsh lights of what could only be described as an execution chamber. The walls were smooth obsidian, reflecting distorted shadows. Around them, a crowd of alien spectators watched from behind reinforced barriers, their faces eager for entertainment. This was sport to them. This was justice. Warden Cross stood before Marcus, a towering figure whose species Marcus couldn't identify. His skin shifted colors like oil on water, and his three eyes blinked in sequence, never looking away from the human. When he spoke, his voice resonated through translator implants that made Marcus's skull ache. "You will choose human. One sister lives. The other dies. This is the law for traitors to the sovereignty." Marcus's throat tightened. What did they do? Their father stole from the treasury. He is dead. His daughters pay the price. One must die. You will decide which one. Cross smiled, revealing rows of crystalline teeth. "This is mercy. We let one survive." "That's not mercy," Marcus said quietly. "That's cruelty wearing mercy's face." Celeste began to sob, the sound breaking something inside Marcus's chest. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't choose me. I want to live. I want to see the sunrise again." Seraphine's eyes glistened, but her voice remained steady. "No, take me. She's younger. She has more life ahead. Let her go." "Seraphine, no. Quiet." Seraphine's voice cracked like a whip. Then, softer. "Celeste, I've already lived. I've seen the moons of Talaxis. I've felt the ocean winds on my skin. You haven't. You deserve that chance." Marcus felt his heart splintering. These weren't criminals. They were sisters who loved each other so much that each was willing to die for the other. And he was supposed to be their executioner? "Choose," Cross demanded, "or both die. You have 2 minutes." The crowd began to chant, a rhythmic pounding that matched Marcus's racing pulse. He looked at the restraints binding the sisters. His engineering mind automatically cataloged their design. Magnetic locks, probably. Old style, judging by the wear patterns. The kind used on cargo containers 3 decades ago. The kind he knew how to pick out an idea sparked. Dangerous, probably impossible. But he couldn't just choose. He WLDN single quotes T. Marcus stood slowly, making a show of examining both sisters more closely. His hands shook, which wasn't entirely an act. He moved toward Celeste first, kneeling beside her. "I need to think," he said loudly. "This isn't a decision I can make lightly." Cross laughed. "Thinking will not make it easier, human. Death is death." But Marcus wasn't thinking about death. His fingers found the small magnetic probe in his tool belt, palming it carefully. As he pretended to study Celeste's face, he let his hand drop near her wrist restraint. The probe slid into the lock mechanism with a barely audible click. Celeste's eyes widened as she felt the device working. Marcus met her gaze and gave the slightest shake of his head. "Not yet. Stay quiet. 1 minute, Cross announced. Marcus moved to Seraphine. As he knelt before her, their eyes met, and something passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, or understanding. She saw what he was doing, and her expression never changed, never gave him away. "You're brave," Marcus whispered, so softly only she could hear. "Both of you. I won't let you die." "You can't stop this," Seraphine breathed back. "Save my sister, please. Watch me." Marcus's fingers worked at Seraphine's restraints while he continued his act, touching his forehead as if deep in thought. The crowd's chanting grew louder, more insistent. 30 seconds. 20. The probe clicked once, twice. The magnetic seal began to weaken. "Time is up." Cross's voice boomed. "Make your choice, human, or I make it for you." Marcus stood, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might burst. He looked at Cross, then at the crowd, then back at the sisters. "I choose," he said clearly. The chamber fell silent. Even the crowd stopped chanting, leaning forward in anticipation. "I choose to reject your law," Marcus said. "I choose neither." Cross's face darkened, his skin shifting to angry crimson. "That is not an option." "Then you'll have to kill all three of us," Marcus replied, his voice stronger now. "Because I won't be part of this. I won't choose which innocent person dies for someone else's crimes." "Fool!" Cross raised his weapon, a staff that crackled with energy. "Then you all die together." But Marcus was already moving. His hand dove into his tool belt and emerged with a thermal flare, the kind used to signal in low visibility. He slammed it against the ground. The chamber exploded in blinding white light. Aliens shrieked, covering their sensitive eyes. Guards stumbled backward. In the chaos, Marcus dropped beside Celeste and yanked the loosened restraint free. Run toward the service door. Then he was at Seraphine's side, pulling at her restraints. The lock resisted, jammed halfway. Come on," he muttered. Seraphine's hands found his, helping him pull. "Behind you." Marcus spun as a guard lunged through the fading light. He grabbed a loose chain from the floor and swung it hard, catching the guard across the helmet. The alien went down. Finally, Seraphine's restraints snapped open. She stumbled to her feet, grabbing Marcus's arm. "Celeste!" The younger sister stood frozen near the door, terror and hope warring on her face. Seraphine ran to her, pulling her close. "Move, little star. We have to move now." More guards were recovering, their weapons charging with lethal energy. Cross's voice roared above the chaos. "Seal all exits. No one leaves." Marcus spotted the service panel he'd been working on earlier. It was designed for maintenance access, not escape, but right now it was their only chance. He sprinted toward it, the sisters following. His fingers flew across the panel's controls, overriding the lock protocol with his engineering codes. The panel hissed open, revealing a dark tunnel barely wide enough for a person. In. Now. Marcus shoved Celeste through first, then helped Seraphine. Energy bolts scorched the wall beside his head as he dove through last, slamming the panel shut behind him. They landed in a tangle of limbs in the darkness, breathing hard. "Keep moving," Marcus gasped. "This tunnel connects to the main ventilation system. We can get lost in there, at least for a while." Seraphine found his hand in the darkness, squeezing it. "Thank you," she whispered. "You risked everything." "So did you," Marcus replied, "when you didn't give me away." They crawled forward through the tunnel, and above them, alarms began to wail. The ventilation shaft was a maze of metal and darkness. Marcus led the way, his hands finding purchase on familiar rivets and joints he had repaired countless times over the past 6 months. Behind him, Seraphine moved with surprising grace, despite her weakened state. while Celeste struggled to keep her breathing quiet. "How much further?" Celeste whispered, her voice trembling. "Another 100 meters to the junction," Marcus replied softly. "Then we go down 3 levels. There's an old maintenance hub that connects to the external service tunnels." The sound of boots echoed through the metal around them. Voices barked orders in languages Marcus didn't understand, but the intent was clear. They were being hunted. Seraphine pressed closer to Marcus in the tight space, her breath warm against his neck. "They'll seal the external tunnels. Standard protocol for escaped prisoners." "How do you know that?" Marcus asked, glancing back at her. Even in the dim emergency lighting that filtered through the grates, her violet eyes seemed to glow. "My father worked in security before." She paused, pain flickering across her face. "Before everything." Marcus felt a surge of anger at the injustice of it all. These women had done nothing wrong, yet they'd been sentenced to death for their father's crimes. What kind of civilization operated on such barbaric principles? They reached the junction, and Marcus carefully removed the access panel. The space opened into a larger corridor, this one lined with pipes that hummed with energy. The air was warmer here, almost stifling. "Rest for a moment," Marcus said, helping both sisters down into the corridor. But only a moment. Celeste collapsed against the wall, her amber eyes filled with exhaustion and lingering fear. Seraphine remained standing, though Marcus could see the tremor in her legs. She had been strong for her sister, but the ordeal was taking its toll. "Here," Marcus pulled a water flask from his belt and handed it to Seraphine. Small sips. Their fingers touched as she took the flask, and Marcus felt something electric pass between them. Seraphine must have felt it too, because she held his gaze for a long moment before looking away. "Why did you do it?" she asked softly. "You didn't know us. You could have chosen Celeste, walked away clean. Why risk your life?" Marcus leaned against the opposite wall, studying her face. "Would you have been able to live with yourself if you'd made that choice?" "No," Seraphine admitted. "But I'm not in your position." "Exactly. Neither am I, apparently." Marcus smiled grimly. "I fix things. Engines, ventilation systems, broken equipment. When I saw those restraints, I couldn't not try to fix that situation too." "We're not machines," Celeste spoke up from where she sat, though her voice held no accusation. "Just curiosity." "No," Marcus agreed. "You're people, and people don't deserve to be broken." A loud clang echoed from somewhere above them. Seraphine's head snapped up, her body tensing. "They're in the upper shafts. Then we move. Now." Marcus helped Celeste to her feet, noting how she leaned heavily on her sister. The younger woman was fading fast. "Can you carry her if needed?" Seraphine nodded, though Marcus could see the doubt in her eyes. She was exhausted too. "Stay close," Marcus said, moving down the corridor. "Watch for the steam vents. They're marked with yellow stripes, but in this light, they're hard to see." They moved through the bowels of the facility, a silent trio fleeing through passages most aliens never knew existed. Marcus had spent months mapping these tunnels during his repair work, never imagining he'd need the knowledge for an escape. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew closer. Shouts in alien languages. The screech of metal being torn apart. The guards were ripping through the ventilation system to find them. "Marcus," Seraphine touched his arm, stopping him. "The external tunnels you mentioned. Even if we reach them, where do they lead?" "To the surface. About 3 kilometers from the main compound. And then?" Marcus met her eyes. "I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. You saved us without a plan?" Despite everything, a small smile tugged at Seraphine's lips. "I had a plan to get you out of the chains. Everything after that is improvisation." Marcus found himself smiling back. Even in this desperate situation, her presence was calming. Strong. You got a better idea? My father had a friend, Seraphine said quietly. Tobias read. He ran a trading post on the colony's edge. If he's still there, he might help us. That's a big if. It's all we have. A sudden hiss made them all freeze. One of the steam vents had activated, releasing a cloud of scalding vapor into the corridor. Marcus pulled both sisters back just in time. They're purging the system, Seraphine realized. Trying to flush us out. Or cook us, Celeste added weakly. Marcus scanned the corridor. The vents were activating in sequence, section by section. They had maybe 30 seconds before this entire passage became an oven. There. He spotted a service ladder leading down. Basement level, move. They scrambled down the ladder as steam billowed around them. The heat was intense, burning Marcus's exposed skin. Above, he could hear the guards' triumphant shouts. They thought they had trapped their prey. The basement level was cooler, darker. Water dripped from corroded pipes, and the smell of mold filled the air. This section was old, probably original construction from when the facility was first built decades ago. This way, Marcus whispered, leading them through ankle-deep water. The passage was narrow, forcing them to move single file. Marcus went first, then Celeste, with Seraphine bringing up the rear. They walked in silence for several minutes, the only sound their breathing and the splash of water. Then Celeste stumbled, gasping. I can't, she whispered. I can't go any further. Seraphine caught her sister before she fell. Yes, you can. Just a little more, little star. But even as she said it, Marcus could see that Celeste was done. Days of captivity, the terror of near execution. And now this desperate flight had drained every reserve of strength. I'll carry her, Marcus said. Turning back. You can't carry her and navigate, Seraphine argued. Then you navigate. You said your father worked security. You know these kinds of facilities. Seraphine hesitated, then nodded. Marcus carefully lifted Celeste, who was lighter than he expected. She wrapped her arms around his neck, her head falling against his shoulder. Thank you, she murmured. Both of you. With Seraphine now in the lead, they continued through the basement. Marcus found his attention drawn to the way Seraphine moved, confident despite the unfamiliar terrain. She paused at each junction, her head tilted as if listening to something beyond normal hearing. You have good instincts, Marcus observed quietly. My people are navigators by nature, Seraphine replied without turning. We read currents, flows, patterns. Even in places like this. Your people? What world are you from? Talaxis. In the outer rim. It's a water world, mostly ocean with scattered islands. Her voice carried a note of longing. I haven't been home in 5 years. Why not? My father's work brought us here. He wanted a better life for us. She laughed bitterly. Look how that turned out. Before Marcus could respond, Seraphine held up a hand. They all froze. Ahead, the sound of voices drifted through the darkness. Guards searching the basement level. Seraphine motioned them into a side alcove, barely large enough for 3 people. They pressed together in the cramped space, Marcus acutely aware of Seraphine's body against his, Celeste still in his arms between them. Footsteps splashed closer. Light beams cut through the darkness, searching. Marcus held his breath, feeling Seraphine's heart racing against his chest. If they were found now, there would be no escape. The guards passed within meters of their hiding spot. Marcus could see their faces, could see the weapons they carried. One stopped, turning toward the alcove as if sensing something. Seraphine's hand found Marcus's free hand, squeezing tight. Her eyes met his in the darkness, and in that moment, Marcus understood that whatever happened next, they faced it together. The guard turned away, following his companions deeper into the basement. They waited several minutes after the sounds faded before emerging. Celeste stirred in Marcus's arms, her eyes fluttering open. "Are they gone?" she whispered. "For now," Marcus replied. "We need to keep moving," Seraphine said, but her voice was softer now, and when she looked at Marcus, something had changed in her expression. The external access should be close. They found it 10 minutes later, a massive door marked with faded warning symbols. Marcus carefully set Celeste down and approached the control panel. "This is going to make noise," he warned. "The moment this door opens, they'll know where we are." "How long to get through the external tunnels to the surface?" Seraphine asked. "If we run, maybe 15 minutes. Then we run." Seraphine helped Celeste stand, supporting her sister. "Ready, little star?" Celeste nodded, though fear still haunted her eyes. Marcus looked at both sisters, these women he barely knew, but for whom he'd risked everything. Seraphine caught his gaze and offered a small, genuine smile. In that smile, Marcus saw strength, gratitude, and something else he couldn't quite name. Something that made his heart beat faster. "Let's go home," Seraphine said softly. Marcus input his override codes. The door groaned, then slowly began to open, revealing the dark tunnel beyond. Immediately, alarms began to wail throughout the facility. "Run!" Marcus shouted. They plunged into the darkness together, the sound of pursuit erupting behind them. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Marcus felt something other than fear. He felt hope. And every time Seraphine's hand brushed his as they ran, he felt something more. Something that terrified him almost as much as the guards chasing them. The tunnel stretched ahead, promising either freedom or death. Behind them, Warden Cross's enraged voice echoed through the facility, promising vengeance. But Marcus ran beside Seraphine, and somehow that made all the difference. The surface awaited, and beyond it, an uncertain future where anything might be possible.